Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight.
I wanted to take a look at the Falcons here because that's obviously the opponent. But here, I'm taking a look at some of their numbers. On the offensive side of the ball, this team really should be better than 2-6. But their red zone percentage, they are right there neck and neck with the Broncos in red zone. They're 27th in the league right now. That seems to me like, I mean, especially for a team that has Todd Gurley and you have all those weapons, that seems like a pretty significant stat.
Yeah, I think it is. They're a team that chews up yardage between the 20s, but they just don't seem to find a way to get it in. I think part of that's been Julio being out early. I think part of that is Todd Gurley's not the player he used to be. I think a lot of it's they're missing Austin Hooper. Calvin Ridley's a great between the 20s receiver. But it's just a team that has been missing some pieces. Now they're getting some of it back, and some of it's healthy. But they're a lot better than the record. Don't sleep on the Falcons at 2-6. I mean, you talk about a team that could just as easily be 6-2.
So let's go to the defense side for the Falcons for a second, because they're a bad red zone team on the offense, but they're an even worse red zone team on defense. As you mentioned, that defense has some problems, and there are 3 stats that jump out specifically about that. But the first one here is their red zone percentage, 74% of the time. 74% of the time they give up the cookies in the red zone.
That's rough. That is really
29th
really
in the
bad.
NFL. 70, which is amazing. You think 74, there are 3 worst teams.
Yeah, that's brutally bad. And they are just brutally bad on defense across the board. They've got some pieces, too. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. The thing about that defense is, I mean, you got Grady Jarrett. Yeah, you got a couple linebackers there that can play. You got a corner that can play. You got a safety that can play. They've got pieces at each level. I just don't know why it never came together under Dan Quinn. Raheem Morris seems to have them playing a little bit better, but, that could just be a byproduct of the change. That usually lasts for a game or two, and then the euphoria wears off. I don't know. I do think the Broncos are going to win this game. Looking at the tape on the Falcons, what I've seen out of them.
There's 2 more stats that jump out here on the defensive side of the ball as far as negative for them. They gave up over 311 passing yards per game. That's 31st in the league.
My God.
I know, 311 passing yards per game.
Dare to dream.
Woo! And then this is the number that you always want to hear. You always ask me what's their yards per play.
That's what I want to know. What's their yards per play and what's their yards per play allowed?
Yards per play, dead last in the NFL, 6.56 yards per play.
Allowed. Wow.
6.56.
So you're averaging between 6 and 7 yards allowed per play.
Per play.
That's historically bad.
It's insane. So by comparison, the Broncos are 11th at 5.34. And the average is around 5.5. Okay, so just a little bit of a ballpark. If you want to look at the average, yards per play is around 5.5. The 6.56, yes, dead last in the NFL. So you're terrible against the pass. Your yards per play is a disaster, and then you're terrible in red zone. The one thing they do well, though, they are good against the run. But I also think that's a little bit of a factor of their offense, actually. I think teams have to throw against them a lot. So we can say, okay, well, they're really good bad against the pass, and they are, but they don't really give up much on the ground. Under 100 yards per game, actually. They are 6th in the NFL. So for everything that they are struggling with on the defensive side of the ball, teams have not really run it well against them. I don't think teams have needed to run it well against them. I think it's because you can take advantage of the passing.
I think it's an efficiency thing, too. I think when you are running, you're just running the dive just to run out the clock, things like that. I think you're probably getting some inflated numbers from that. God, that's tasty, though. If you're looking for a get-right game for your offense, my goodness.
I'm telling you.
7 yards per play is, wow, that is all-time bad.
It just kind of goes to show you, I mean, when you're a 2-6 team, we can say, don't sleep on this team. And I think that's a fair way to assess the Falcons. You can't sleep on this team. They showed even this last week that they can get that win. But you kind of also simultaneously say, okay, well, they made some bad decisions in the fourth quarter, but they put themselves in some bad positions in the fourth quarter because teams can do whatever they want. I mean, you remember the Detroit game. I mean, Todd Gurley accidentally runs it into the end zone.
Why wouldn't you just kneel the ball?
Oh, I know. I mean, as far as the decision-making, we can go into that, but I'm saying, guess what Matt Stafford and the Detroit Lions did? They just took the ball and walked right down, scored a touchdown in the end zone. Mm-hmm. Like as if they expected it to do it the whole time. And so you said it. It's a get-right game for the Broncos offensively, and hopefully they can use a little bit of what they learned about themselves in the Chargers game against the Falcons, and I think they can.
Yeah, I hope that carries over, and I hope it carries over early. The last thing I want to see is this team struggling and beating up their own confidence in themselves in the first half of a football game. I want to see, it was weird to me because Vance Joseph teams would start out hot. Mm-hmm. They come out hot, and then they couldn't score for 3 quarters, and we'd all be like, well, I hope they get 2 touchdowns in the first on the script because otherwise they're not going to score anymore. Now you're all like, well, can we get done with the script real quick so we can get on to, the Broncos scoring points? I wish we could find a happy medium between the two.